Good afternoon, everyone. U.S. corn exports down, U.S. soybeans down, weekly wheat down, Ukrainian exports down, Russian exports down. What's happening? Oh, Black Sea and EU wheat export prices up, tightening global supply, wheat prices up. And look at China's soybean imports, South America dominating, even Argentina's grain superhighway being unfurled by the Chinese. And look at South America during the Maunder Minimum. Not very much change compared to the Northern Hemisphere. Do you think their grains will be affected? Maybe the Chinese know something about cycles where grain production is going to go offline and where it's not going to be affected too much. They're focusing right there, Argentina and Brazil. San Francisco emergency test. 30 years since the '89 earthquake. What's that all about? And with talk of trade wars and the Fed lowering rates, talks of stock markets crashing across the global economy, contractions everywhere you look, isn't it time to consider gold or silver? Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver IRA dealer. At Patriot, you work directly with an owner and avoid paying absurd broker fees. Call today to request a free investment kit below. Mention ADAPT 2030 and get a free 1-ounce silver coin just for answering a 3-minute survey. Call 1-800-778-4156 for more information or click the link in the description box below. Patriot Gold Group, free gold and silver IRA investment guides. And an interesting anomaly here. Emergency alerts. This is the test network of San Francisco's wireless providers. And of interest and note, 30 years since the 1989 earthquake. Why were they saying that? Why are they referencing such a large earthquake? And then same tweet here, meanwhile back at San Francisco's Emergency Operations Center. Look at all the phones they're testing. Every single one to make sure old and young capture key data for the efficiency test of this emergency alert system. Strange timing with all the quakes rattling across the West Coast. Quick visual for you here, electrical storm, Poland. And here we go, Australia's wheat crop expected to fall 11% on the drought, which apparently, according to Kevin Long at the longview.com.au, has 5 more years to intensify. So my question is, if Australia lost this much wheat production already, almost 2 million tons from the drought this year, what will it be like 5 years from now? Private agencies, again, giving some more real numbers comparatively to the government's coming in at, 20 million tons? How can private agricultural consulting agencies come 3 to 5 million tons under what the government is? And even at the very bottom in there, another set of forecasters estimating 14.5 million tons. Interesting on the conflict of numbers. Over to AgriCensus. I'm wondering what's happening with all these exports. Are countries keeping their exports in, or is it all a shell game to not spook global markets and the global citizenry? U.S. corn net sales missed the mark. That's on the exports outbound. U.S. soy exports falling short again. U.S. weekly wheat down. What is it with the miss on all the exports coming out of the U.S.? And then we're over into Ukraine. Wheat exports down. Russian exports slipping. But Russia's smart. They were expected to start to pull back on wheat exports anyway, keeping more for their own country as this Grand Solar Minimum intensifies and global crop yields decrease. And because of all this news currently with the wheat, here we go, prices up. Looking at 3 different loading terminals here, prices per bushel. And then from the U.S. Wheat Associates weekly update as well, Black Sea and EU wheat export prices continue to increase amid tightening global supply. Now, wait a second. USDA telling us we're going to be in all this extra production. We're like swimming in extra yield. Farmers coming to harvest. Oops. Links are in the description box below for this set of stories and the PDF linked as well for the weekly update. Now over here, taking a look at the U.S. versus Brazil. Market share of China's total soybean imports. Yellow line, bad, USA. White line, good, Brazil. Look at the divergence in the amount of imports and exports. Although, take a look at that little kink at the bottom. China's back buying again. Gee, I wonder why. Could they be running low on soy oil and soy meal? But a more bar graph here type of visual for you. China's soybean imports by country. Brazil exceeding any other on the chart here. Yellow is Brazilian imports for China buyers. Argentina blue and the U.S. red. Now you can see there was a substantial shift in the middle of 2018. Even with all this trade war, the imports continue. You know, China's behind the eight ball. They have to import. They need the food for their citizens. No food, social disruption. Now, the Chinese are smart. They have these cycles wired. They know exactly where and when places on the planet are going to cool. Other areas will be non-disrupted or slightly disrupted, or other areas will come online. Hence, the investments in North Africa, what are now sort of deserts, becoming wetter every year. And here they are, second play on the planet. Argentina's grains superhighway, which will also funnel from Uruguay, parts of Brazil, straight down to that new loading port there. And isn't it just coincidental when we look at the Maunder Minimum reconstruction map, South America, you know those grain growing areas where China is focusing on there? Look at that. Almost no temperature change during that last Grand Solar Minimum, Maunder Minimum. Some precipitation? Yes. Temperatures? No. Grow zone will remain. But look what happens in North America, up there in Canada, United States, and also over into Asia and the grain growing belts of the Ural Mountains. That's going offline. My co-author Bill Porter and I talk about this in Climate Revolution, our book about the Grand Solar Minimum, as well as the presentation Winter is Coming, Cycles of Change and Transition. Both are available through PayHip, self-published, and the links in the description box below. I will see you next video.